Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Ekta Bhushan, teaching Anatomy and Physiology of Exercise at Indira Gandhi Institute of Physical Education and Sports Sciences, University of Delhi. I welcome you all to online lecture of UGC CEC. In this series, we will discuss different topics associated with anatomy and physiology of exercise. But today in particular, we will discuss the topic muscular system. There are more than 600 muscles in our human body. A kind of elastic tissue makes up each muscle, which consists of thousands or 10,000s of small muscle fibers. Each fiber comprises many tiny strands called fibrils. Impulses from nerve cells control the contraction of each muscle fiber. A muscle strength depends mainly on how many fibers are present. To fuel a muscle, the body makes adenosine triphosphate, that is ATP, which muscle cells turn into mechanical energy. A muscle is a group of muscle tissues which contracts together to produce a force. A muscle consists of fibers of muscle cells surrounded by protective tissues, bundled together many more fibers all surrounded in a thick protective tissue. A muscle uses ATP to contract and shorten, producing a force on the object it is connected to. There are several types of muscle which act on various parts of the body. So mainly there are three types of muscles, that is skeleton muscles, smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. So let's start with smooth muscle. As you can see the structure of smooth muscle also. So smooth muscles are responsible for movements in the stomach, intestine, blood vessels and hollow organs. The smooth muscles in the bowel are also called visceral muscles. These muscles work automatically with a person being unaware that they are using them. Unlike skeleton muscles, they do not depend on conscious thoughts. Many different bodily movements depend on smooth muscles contractions. These include the intestinal walls pushing food forward, the uterus contracting during childbirth, and the pupil shrinking and expanding to accommodate the amount of light available. Smooth muscles are also present within the walls of the bladder and the bronchi. The arrector pili muscles in the skin, which makes the hair strands up, also comprise smooth muscles fiber. Now cardiac muscle. As you can see the structure of cardiac muscle also. So cardiac muscle are responsible for the heartbeat and only exist in heart. Found only in heart, cardiac muscle is responsible for pumping blood throughout the body. Cardiac muscle tissue cannot be controlled consciously, so it is an involuntary muscle. While hormones and signals from the brain adjust the rate of contraction, cardiac muscle stimulates itself to contract. The natural pacemaker of the heart is made of cardiac muscle tissue that stimulates other cardiac muscle cells to contract. Because of its self-stimulation, cardiac muscle is considered to be autorhythmic or intrinsically controlled. The cells of cardiac muscle tissue are striated, that is, they appear to have light and dark strips when viewed under the light microscope. The arrangement of protein fibers inside of the cells causes these light and dark bands. Striation indicate that a muscle cell is very strong, unlike visceral muscle. Now the third one is the skeleton muscle. So skeleton muscle move the external parts of the body and the limbs. They cover the bones and give the body its shape. Skeleton muscle is the only voluntary muscle tissue in the human body. It is controlled consciously. Every physical action that a person consciously performs, example, speaking, walking or writing, requires skeletal muscle. The function of skeleton muscle is to contract, to move parts of the body closer to the bone that the muscle is attached to. Most skeleton muscles are attached to two bones across a joint, so the muscle serve to move parts of those bones closer to each other. Skeleton muscle cells form when many smaller progenitor cells lump themselves together to form long, straight, multicleated fibers or straighted just like cardiac muscle. These skeleton muscles fibers are very strong. Skeleton muscle derives its name from the fact that these muscles always connect to the skeleton in at least one place. Now, there are some types of skeleton muscles also, that is type 1 fiber, type 2 fiber, and type 2 fiber is also divided into two subgroups, that is type 2A and type 2B. So, type 1 fibers are very slow and deliberate in their contractions. They are very resistant to fatigue because they are aerobic respiration to produce energy from sugar. We find type 1 fibers in muscles throughout the body for stamina and posture. Near the spine and neck region, very high concentration of type 1 fibers hold the body up throughout the day. Now, type 2A fiber are faster and stronger than type 1 fiber but do not have much endurance. Type 2A fibers are found throughout the body but especially in the legs where they work to support your body throughout a long day of walking or standing. Now, type 2B fibers are even faster and stronger than type 2A but have even less endurance. Type 2B fibers are also much lighter in color than type 1 and type 2A due to their lack of myoglobin, an oxygen storing pigment. We find type 2B fibers throughout the body, but in particular the upper body where they give speed and strength to the arms and chest at the expansion of stamina. Now let's see the gross structure of skeleton muscle. You can see the picture where we can see that muscle is attached to the bone and the attachment between the bone and muscle is due to tendons. The superficial layer of the outermost layer of muscle is epimysium, and then fascicles are there, and you can see some blood vessels also. Then the second layer is perimysium. Then in the last we can see the muscle fibers, that is myofibrils, and we will learn about myofibrils further in detail also. So most skeleton muscles are attached to two bones through tendons. Tendons are tough bands of dense regular connective tissue. Those strong collagen fibers firmly attach muscles to bone. Tendons are under extreme stress when muscles pull on them. So they are very strong and are woven into the covering of both muscles and bones. Muscles move by shortening their length, pulling on tendons and moving bones closer to each other. One of the bone is pulled towards the other one, which remains stationary. The place on the stationary bone that is connected by tendons to the muscle is called the origin. The place on the moving bone that is connected to the muscle via tendons is called the insertion. The belly of the muscle is fleshy part of the muscle in between the tendons that does the actual contraction. Now, gross structure includes muscle is composed of muscle cell, which are called as muscle fibers because they are so strong, cylindrical shape, multinucleated cell, more resemble to fiber than cell. They are arranged parallel to each other. Then each fiber is multinucleated and the nucleus are located near the surface of each fiber. Bundle of fibers are surrounded by collagen fibers and connective tissues. Each muscle fiber is enclosed by a plasma membrane called sarcolemma. The cytoplasm is known as sarcoplasm, which contains large number of mitochondria. And remember, the mitochondria is the energy house of cells. Now we can see the diagram of sarcomere unit, where we can see the myofibril, and there are two types of protein elements called actin, myosin, and one is thin and one is thick, and we can see the structure here where the thin and thick filaments are there, and they are creating a band, A band, I band, H zones, M zones, Z lines, where you can see in the diagram. So sarcomere unit are made up of two types of protein fibers, thick filaments and thin filaments. Thick filament are made up of bonded units of the protein myosin. Myosin is the protein that causes muscles to contract. Then thin filament are made up of three proteins. One is actin. Actin forms a helical structure that makes up the bulk of the thin filament mass. Actin contains myosin binding sites that allow myosin to connect to and move actin during the muscle contraction. Then there are tropomyosin and troponin. Tropomyosin is a long protein fiber that wrap around actin, covers the myosin binding sites on actin, and troponin bound very tightly to tropomyosin. Troponin moves tropomyosin away from myosin binding sites during muscle contraction. Here we can see the detailed diagram of myosin and actin. The portion of thick filament, that is myosin, you can see the ATP binding sites also, the heads, and which are erected to connect to the actin filament. And another one is the portion of thin filaments, where we can see all the three protein filaments, that is troponin, actin and tropomyosin. And there are binding sites of myosins also. So myosin head binds to the actin filament when muscle contraction occurs. So muscle fiber is composed of large number of myofibril arranged parallel to each other. Around each myofibril, a network of sarcoplasmic reticulum runs parallel, forming transverse tubules, that we also call them T-tubules. So close examination of myofibrils shows it is composed of two types of longitudinal filaments. Thin filament is made up of actin protein, where thick filament is made up of myosin protein. Three myofilaments are arranged in such as a way they form alternate dark and light bands. So the dark band is formed where actin and myosin interlocked with each other, called A band. The light band between the A band formed by actin, only known as I band. Cutting across I band is Z line. Within A band, there is somewhat lighter H zone is there, which contains only in myosin. So extending across H zone, there is a delicate M line which connects adjacent myosin filament. Now will move further towards the functions of muscles. So the first function of muscle is mobility. The muscle system's main function is to allow movement. When muscles contract, they contribute to gross and fine movements. Gross movements refers to large coordinated motions include walking, running or swimming. Mobility, fine movements involve smaller movements such as writing, speaking or face expressions. So the smaller skeleton muscles are usually responsible for this type of action. Most muscle movements of the body is under conscious control. However, some movements are reflexive, such as withdrawing a hand from a source of heat. Then the second function of muscle is stability. So muscle tendons stretch over joints and contributes to joint stability. Muscle tendons in the knee joint and the shoulder joint are crucial in stability. Then the next one is posture. Skeleton muscles help keep the body in the correct position when someone is sitting or standing. This is known as posture. Good posture relies on strong flexible muscles. Stiff, weak or tight muscles contribute to poor posture and misalignment of the body. The long-term bad posture lead to joint and muscle pain in the shoulders, back, neck or elsewhere. Then the next function of muscle is circulation. The heart is a muscle that pumps blood throughout the body. The movement of the heart is outside of conscious control and it contracts automatically when stimulated by electrical signals. Then a smooth muscle in the arteries and veins plays a further role in the circulation of blood around the body. These muscles maintain blood pressure and circulation in the event of blood loss or dehydration. They expand to increase blood flowing during times of intense exercise when the body requires more oxygen. Then the next one is respiration. Breathing involves the use of the diaphragm muscle. You can see when we inhale or exhale, diaphragm expand and extend also. So the diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle located below the lungs. When the diaphragm contracts, it pushes downward, causing the chest cavity to get bigger. The lungs then fill with air. When the diaphragm muscles relaxes, it pushes air out of the lungs. When someone wants to breathe more deeply, it requires help from the other muscles, including those in the abdomen, back and neck. The next function is digestion. The smooth muscles in the gastrointestinal or GI tract control digestion. The GI tract stretches from the mouth to the anus. Food moves through the digestive system with a wave-like motion called peristalsis organ. Muscles in the walls of the hollow organs contract and relax to cause this movement, which pushes food through the esophagus into the stomach. The upper muscle in the stomach relaxes to allow food to enter, while the lower muscles mix food particles with stomach acid and enzymes. The digested food moves from the stomach to the intestines by peristalsis. From here, more muscles contract to pass the food out of the body as stool. So the next function of muscle is urination. The urinary system comprises both smooth and skeleton muscles, including those in the bladder. You can see in the picture also the bladder and sphincter muscle is the main muscle which holds the bladder, and kidney, penis or vagina, prostate, uterus and urethra. You can see in the picture the bladder muscles are there. Then urine stores in there. There are sphincter muscles, urethra and urethra opening. So the muscles and nerves must work together to hold and release urine from the bladder. Urinary problems such as poor bladder control or retention of urine are caused by damage to the nerves that carry signals to the muscles. The next function is childbirth. The smooth muscles in the uterus expands and contract during childbirth. These movements push the baby through the vagina. Also, the pelvic floor muscles helps to guide the baby's head down the birth canal. The next one is vision. 6 skeleton muscles around the eye control its movement. These muscles work quickly and precisely and allow the eye to maintain a stable image, scan the surroundings area, track moving objects. The next one is organ protection. So muscle in the torso protects the internal organs at the front side and back of the body. The bones of the spine and the ribs provide further protection. Muscle also protect the bones and organs by absorbing shock and reducing friction in the joints. The next one is temperature regulation. Maintaining normal body temperature is an important function of the muscular system. Almost 85% of the heat a person generates in their body comes from contracting muscles. So when body heat falls below optimal level, the skeleton muscles increase their activity to make heat. So shivering is one of the example of mechanism. Muscle in the blood vessels also contract to maintain body heat. Body temperature can be brought back within normal range through the relaxation of smooth muscle. In the blood vessels, this action increases blood flow and releases excess heat through the skin. Now, we will discuss how we can develop muscles through exercise. So, developing muscles through exercise can improve balance, bone health and flexibility, and it can enhance strength and stamina also. People can choose from a wide range of physical activity options, but there are two main types of exercise that are aerobic and anaerobic. So let's see the aerobic exercise. So aerobic exercise sessions are typically of long duration and require medium to low levels of exertions. This type of exercise requires the body to use the muscles at below their maximum strength capacity. A marathon is an example of an aerobic activity with a very long duration. Aerobic activities rely mainly on the body's aerobic or oxygen system. They use a higher proportion of the slow twitch muscle fibers. Energy consumptions comes from carbohydrates, fat and protein, and the body produces high quantities of oxygen and very little lactic acid. So the next type of exercise is anaerobic exercise. So during anaerobic exercise, the muscles contract intensely at a level nearer to their maximum strength. Athletes who are aim to improve their strength, speed and power will focus more on this type of exercise. So a single anaerobic activity lasts from a few seconds to maximum of 2 minutes. Example including weightlifting, sprinting, climbing and jumping ropes. Anaerobic exercise use more fast twitch muscle fibers. The main fuel source are ATP or glucose, and the body use less oxygen, fat and protein. This type of activity produces high quantities of lactic acid. Anaerobic exercises will make the body stronger, but aerobic exercise will make it fitter. To maintain healthy muscles, it is important to get regular exercise and to eat a nutritious balanced food if possible. So now we have come to the conclusion or summary. So the human body contains hundreds of muscles, of which there are three different types. Each type of muscles plays a different role in helping the body move and function properly. Muscle cramps and weakness can indicate an underlying medical condition or injury. Some people are born with muscle groups that are not properly developed. Medical professionals recommend exercise for developing muscle strength. Maintaining strength in the muscles is important for various factors, including balance, flexibility, and bone health. So, I hope you understand muscular system, types of muscles, functions of muscles, and how you can develop muscles. That's all for today. See you next time. Thank you.